Hello, everyone. I'm Ron Timmermans, one of your many hosts with the Florida Aviation Network. We're broadcasting live and in the clear today from the terminal building at Sebring Airport, where we're hosting the U.S. Sport Aviation Expo 2019. This is the 15th year of the Sport Aviation Expo. We educate, innovate, and aviate. Our guest today is Mr. Phil Lockwood of Lockwood Aviation Group. Phil, it's good to have you here today, and I know you're a longtime resident of Sebring and a great supporter of the Sport Aviation Expo. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, you're very welcome, Ron. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah, good. So I mentioned Lockwood Aviation Group, which is a group of companies that you've begun now in your 30th year, I understand. So tell us a bit about the company structure that you have.
Sure. Lockwood Aviation Group is made up of several different companies. One, we have Lockwood Aviation Supply, which is a Rotax service center, and we supply parts to customers all over the country. We have Lockwood Aviation Repair, which services the Rotax engines, also an FAA licensed repair station. So we service both the ASTM compliant versions of the engine and the fully certified FAR 33 versions of the engine. We also stock parts for both. And we also work on all the airplanes, or most of the airplanes that they're installed in, from Tecnams to CTs to Bristols to everything, and of course the Aircams as well. Then we have our Lockwood Aircraft division, which manufactures the Aircam kit and supports it. And then we have a school. And our school trains people on how to work on the Rotax engines. And there we've trained more than all the other training centers in the U.S. put together. We have a full-time instructor and a dedicated classroom. And we do a really good job, I think, with the Rotax training. Matter of fact, we have training courses going on just before the Expo, and we have another set going on just after the Expo, and they've all filled up.
Excellent. Well, that's good. So all of your Lockwood Aviation enterprises are located here at the Sebring Airport?
Yes, they are. Yes.
Okay, good. So tell me a bit about the Aircam. So this is, how new is the Aircam aircraft?
Well, the Aircam has been around for a while, although we continue to improve it and innovate with new features. The Aircam started back in the 90s. I built a prototype for National Geographic, a special mission in the Congo, and then the plane seemed to work quite well, and from that experience we developed a kit plane and put it in production as a kit plane.
So the aircraft design was actually developed here at Sebring in your company?
Most of the work was done here in Sebring. I was actually in Lake Wales when we started the project. And then we moved our facility here and completed the project. Most of the engineering on the version that people are familiar with now took place between 1995 and 2000.
Oh, so the aircraft has been around that long?
It has, yeah.
I see.
Yeah, there was about 22,000 hours of engineering that went into the project over that period to get it from prototype phase to where we could produce it as a kit, and where the kit was thoroughly engineered.
I see. And how many Aircams are in service today?
I think we're on serial number around 266. So there's maybe 250 flying, something like that, 240.
Some of them still flying in the Congo?
No. The one that we built for the Geographic came back to the U.S. and was restored by an Aircam customer, actually. And is now owned by EAA and is in the EAA Air Museum in Wisconsin. That's Aircam number 1.
I see. Very good. And so there's over 250 of them flying today, all over the U.S. and other countries as well?
All over the world, yeah, they're spread around. Of course, most of them are in the U.S., but they're all over the place. Yep.
Now, the Aircam, as I recall, is an open cockpit twin-engine aircraft.
It is. It's an open cockpit. That's what it's famous for. Open cockpit, incredible view. Twin engine redundancy, and the ability to fly over unlandable terrain and have a second engine. And the two engines, because it can fly on one engine, the two engines afford it quite remarkable performance when they're both operating, right? So, and then recently we developed a full enclosure. The full enclosure does enable you to fly in colder weather, light rain, that sort of thing. So it's opened up sales. We've sold several in Europe now, some in Canada, Alaska, and northern colder climates where we wouldn't have sold them before. The full enclosure is kind of neat because you don't give up your open cockpit capability, and it can be removed in 30 minutes or reinstalled in 30 minutes.
So you still have the great view out of the cockpit, just maybe a little bit warmer if you're flying in colder weather, huh?
You do, yeah. Yeah, the view is almost the same. I mean, the canopy is all plexiglass, and so it really doesn't block the view.
Very good. And how many hours have you been flying in an Aircam?
That's a good question, Ron. I don't even know because I haven't logged it all. Could be 1,000 hours over all those years.
That's a lot. And so this is available to pilots with light sport licenses. Is that correct?
No, the Aircam is a conventional aircraft as far as the FAA is concerned. It actually requires a minimum of a private pilot's license with a multi-engine rating.
Okay, so to get to be able to fly the Aircam, you have to have at least a private license and a multi-engine rating.
That
would make sense. Okay.
Yeah, in light sport, you know, they limit it to single engine to start with, and so we that pushes us out of the category, and then on top of that, we're over the weight.
Yeah. Okay, I understand that. What is the weight of the Aircam when it's fully loaded with 2 people in fuel?
Typical max gross is 1680.
1680. So just outside the light support weight limit, but twin engine, I understand.
Right.
Oh, very good.
Right.
Very good. And the people that fly them mostly for recreation, or are there any other commercial purposes that they fly them for?
Well, being experimental, very limited in what you could do commercially. The majority of them are flown just for recreation. Yeah, people having fun. There are some guys that do photography with them, but you couldn't rent it out or anything like that because it's experimental.
Understood.
Yeah, most of them are being used. They're so much fun.
Yeah. So obviously it's fun to fly in these aircraft, but what do you expect for performance as far as speed or fuel flow with the Aircam?
Well, the plane is designed to fly slow comfortably, and so it has a lot of wing area. So it's really at home flying at 55 knots. You know, stall speed is down around 35 knots, like 40 miles per hour. And so even at 55 miles per hour, 60 miles per hour, in that range, the plane is really comfortable just flying slow at that speed. At that speed, you're burning around 4 gallons an hour total.
4 total?
Yeah, it's just each engine is just ticking over 2 gallons an hour aside. If you're in a hurry, particularly if you have an enclosure, you can get 100 miles an hour true airspeed out of it if you want to go up a little higher. And I've done that on a cross country. And of course, the fuel burn at higher speeds depends on which engines you have. Our demo, for example, has a full enclosure, and it has the new fuel injected engines. So with that, if I want to go up to 8,000 or 9,000 feet, I'll get a true airspeed of about 100 miles per hour on, about 6 gallons an hour.
Wow, that's still a very good low fuel flow rate.
Yep.
Well, that's great. That's great. So the fun factor is really maxed out on an Aircam, and you have the comfort of a second engine, which is nice, plus a great view. So that sounds great. So they're actually built and manufactured here in Sebring?
The kits are manufactured here in Sebring, yes.
Okay, and so it's a kit-built airplane, so you buy the kit and you assemble it in your own garage or airport hangar or whatever, and then
that's right.
And go fly it. That's
yep.
great.
The manual's really good. The parts are very nicely finished, so it's a good build, nice kit to build.
Yeah. So I've also seen some videos of Aircam on floats. Is that a popular option for the?
It's become very popular. There are a lot of Aircams operating on floats.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly the Claymore floats.
Okay. And do you have amphib kit for it, or just floats or wheels?
I think there's probably 60 or 70 Aircams on floats in that range, and all but maybe 2 of them are amphibs.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So people like the capability of either landing on land or on on water with an
Yeah,
amphibian.
they want to go play in the water, and then
Yeah.
they want to come back and put it in the hangar at the end of the day.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Well, that sounds like a really fun and exciting opportunity. If someone were to buy one and go through training, how long would they expect the training to take? Is it fairly simple to learn how to fly one, or is it a rather complex endeavor?
Well, the airplane is really simple, and so transition training is pretty straightforward. And of course, like any plane, it depends on the experience that the pilot has. If you've already got tail wheel time, and you're already familiar with lighter airplanes like Cubs and Champs, then the checkout will be a snap. So if you don't have tail wheel time, then it is a tail wheel airplane, right? Now, funnily enough, on floats, it turns into a tri-gear airplane. And so it's actually easier to land and take off on amphibs than it is on the regular wheels. It's easy to fly as a tailwheel airplane, but it is a tailwheel airplane.
I see. So to fly this, if a pilot already has a multi-engine rating, private pilot multi-engine rating, it's just a checkout with an instructor?
Yep.
There's nothing else. You don't have to go to a DP and find a DP that's qualified in an Aircam. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
As long as he's got a multi-land, he needs a multi-C if he's going to fly on floats.
Yeah.
We're working with the FAA right now to get a special loader that will allow us to do multi-C training. We got a problem right now trying to find enough sources for multi-C training for our customers. Particularly, most of them only want to fly the Aircam on floats.
Yeah.
And the fleet of multi-C trainers is pretty sparse and pretty old. I mean, they're 60, 70-year-old airplanes you're trying to work, and so very expensive. And it's so you have to get your multi-land in a conventional twin, but we're hoping that you'll be able to get your multi-C in an Aircam that we'll have set up here just for that purpose.
Oh, great! That would be a big help to pilots seeking to purchase one.
It will be, yeah. The one caveat is the FAA guys are saying they want to make sure you have an unrestricted multi-land rating before you do that. And if you've done that already, in other words, you've already demonstrated that you can feather props and that sort of thing, then go ahead and get the multi-C in the Aircam.
Okay, well that sounds great. So that sounds like a really exciting aircraft to fly, and I will look forward to flying one of these days and get a demo ride. And I don't know if I'll be able to purchase one, but it'd be a fun aircraft to fly, just loitering around at 50 knots or less, and then going high and fast at 100 miles an hour or more. So that's great. That's great. So the Aircam has a pair of Rotax engines, does it?
It does. Most popular engines would be the 912 ULS carbureted engine, or the 912IS fuel-injected engine. They're both 100 horsepower engines.
Okay. So tell us about those engines. They're manufactured and serviced here as well in Sebring?
The engines are manufactured in Austria by Rotax, the division of Rotax BRP in Austria. They're really good engines, and they're lightweight, powerful, and they're quite reliable. So there's a great fit for the Aircam. A lot of the aircraft today that you see here, light sports, I'm guessing probably 80% of the planes you'll see at this show will be powered by Rotax. It really dominates the light sport industry.
Indeed, they do.
Yeah. They've really enabled the Aircam to do what it does. Without those engines, we couldn't have built it.
Yeah. I can imagine. So other aircraft that we'll see here on the ramp on display here today that will be run by Rotax engines might include what kind of manufacturers?
Oh, there are lots of them. I mean, you see the Bristol right outside the door here. I know Flight Design's here. Tecnam's got their operation right next door, and you know, everything from Kit Foxes to they're all. There's just a myriad. A lot of aircraft from Europe. I think I saw what's it called? The Cenas and the Virus from Pipistrel. I think they're here. There's a STEMI motor glider. They use a version of the 914 turbo. Yeah, in that. I mean, just on and on and on. There's just a lot of them.
Yeah, we'll see a lot of them out here on the ramp, I'm sure. Many different models of light sport aircraft powered by Rotax. So That'll be good to watch for. So, one of your facilities here, you do maintenance on Rotax engines. You said you do everything from tune-ups to complete overhauls.
Sure. We have components that are sent in to be serviced, like carburetors. Do a lot of carburetor overhauls for the Rotaxes. So everything from minor maintenance, 100-hour inspections, oil changes, component overhauls, to complete engine overhaul. We do it all.
I see. And you've got the facilities here at Sebring that to accomplish all that.
We do, facilities and the staff.
Very good, very good. So how many engines do you work on in a year, or do, say, overhauls on Rotax engines in a year?
Well, I wouldn't know the answer to that. They come and go every day, and I don't track that number, but certainly quite a few. I mean, I think we have 5 mechanics that are working on engines or airframes all day, every day.
Wow, 5 mechanic staff. That's a pretty good number of folks. I'm sure you got a lot of throughput then. That's good.
The shop stays quite busy.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So tell me now a bit about training. You said that you do have a training facility here for mechanics for Rotax engines. Is that correct?
Sure. A fellow by the name of Dean Vogel. He will be in our display here tomorrow and Saturday, and he's the one that teaches the courses. He's very good instructor. And we schedule those about every other month. There'll be a set of courses. You have service, which is a 2-day course, which gives you the ability to understand the engine and do basic service tasks. And you have maintenance. Maintenance gets into 100-hour inspections and troubleshooting and a little bit deeper into the maintenance of the engine. Between service and maintenance, most technicians will get 95% of what they're going to use over the course of their service career. So each of those are 2 days, 4 days total. And then you get into heavy maintenance, which is a 3-day course.
So that's an additional 3-day course.
Yes.
And that's for what, like overhauls?
Overhauling components.
Uh-huh.
And then the next step would be overhaul.
Okay.
After that.
Okay. Oh, overhauling components first and then overhauling the entire engine.
Heavy maintenance is just overhauling components.
Yeah.
Carburetors, doing heads, gearboxes, that sort of thing.
So do you have students from all throughout the U.S. and international that come to this training class?
We do, yeah. Mostly domestic. But we'll get people from Canada, from South America, from overseas, sure.
Very good. And how many students come through the training program each year, roughly?
I think I heard from Dean that we had trained over 800 students. So I don't know how many it is per year, but it's quite a few.
Wow. So, and you said Dean is full-time just with training and prepping for it.
He does technical oversight in our shop.
Ah.
Wasn't counted as one of the 5 technicians. He teaches the schools, helps us with technical support at shows like here at this show. And he'll go with us to Oshkosh and Sun and Fun and usually be in the Rotax booth representing Lockwood and helping with technical support. And then he does technical support out of our shop for our customers the rest of the time. I
see. Okay. So in addition to displaying here and having representatives here at the U.S. Sport Aviation Expo, I imagine you'll be at Sun and Fun in a couple of months in April?
We will. We'll have a display for both Lockwood Aircraft and Lockwood Aviation at Sun and Fun and Oshkosh.
Okay, and at Oshkosh as well. So you're there all week at Oshkosh as well?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and in one of the hangar booths, or do you have a booth outside the...
Well, at Sun and Fun, Lockwood Aviation Supply is indoor in Building D, back-to-back with Garmin. We're right next to Garmin. And then Lockwood Aircraft is outside in the main aircraft display area. At Oshkosh, we have 2 indoor displays in Building B, the closest one to the south, eastern part of the show of the 4 big inside hangars. So we'll have a display for Lockwood Aviation Supply and for Lockwood Aircraft inside Building B, and then we'll have a display in the ultralight light sport area for Lockwood Aircraft where Aircams will be flying.
Right. Okay, that'll be down south at the
Paradise
Air Venture.
Yeah.
Very good. So you mentioned a Lockwood Aviation Supply. So is that associated with the Rotax engines, or do you have other items that
the main focus of Lockwood Aviation Supply is supporting Rotax aircraft engines and the airplanes that they're installed in.
Okay, but there are some other ancillary things that you offer at Lockwood Aviation.
Sure, fuel
Supply as well.
strainers and you know,
Yeah.
some paint supplies,
The
cables,
standard fare that
hardware.
every pilot needs.
Sure.
Or at least once.
Well, yeah.
Very
Yeah, there's
good.
quite a few other accessories we sell, but we stock a very large inventory of Rotax aircraft engine parts.
Yeah, yeah.
We also sell the engines themselves, of course.
The Rotax engines,
Mhm.
yeah. Well, that's good. That's good. So there's two models that you mentioned: the carbureted version and then the fuel-injected version.
Right.
And,
So
are
all
there any
these,
other models available, or is that it?
well, all the engines have been carbureted up until recently. The four-stroke engines, the 9 series, are have been very popular, and actually out for about 30 years now. I went to the first school on the 912 in 1989, so we're hitting 30 years and about 2,000 changes and improvements to the 9 series from then till now. So they have continually improved and developed these engines, and they really are the best engines they've ever built today. I mean, it's quite remarkable to see how they've evolved from the beginning to now. But as part of that process, they decided to develop a fully electronically controlled fuel-injected version. And so we have the 912 IS, which is a 100-horsepower engine that's electronically fuel-injected, and a new engine that they've recently debuted called the 915. And the 915 is a 141-horsepower engine that's capable of cruising at putting out a cruise power continuous of 135 horsepower. And that's a significant number because if you look at a Lycoming 360 180 horsepower engine, that engine at 75% power is going to put out about 135 horsepower. And of course, it can only do that up to around 7,000 or 8,000 feet. And then after that, full throttle is going to yield less than 75% power.
Right.
The 915 will maintain 135 horsepower for cruise up to 15,000 feet. So potentially much better performance at altitude. Now, when you compare the weight to conventional engines, we're doing a conversion right now in an aircraft that was normally powered by a Lycoming 0320 160 horse engine. The whole package that we're developing weighs about 100 pounds less than the 320. And of course, the 320 would have less power available for cruise than the 915. So it's going to be a game changer, we think. It's so light and very efficient, fuel injected, all computer controlled.
So this would be retrofit to experimental aircraft?
Retrofit to experimental aircraft is also a certified version.
Oh, there is?
Yeah, so it could be STC'd, but it's difficult to actually install it on existing aircraft because of the tremendous weight difference between conventional engines and this engine.
Rotax, yeah.
Yeah, it's so much lighter. It makes CG difficult. So what I think you're going to see a new series of airplanes that are developed around that engine, much the way many of the light sport aircraft we just discussed that you'll see here at the show were developed around the 912. Those airplanes wouldn't exist without that engine because there has to be a balance between the size and weight of the engine and the airframe.
Indeed.
And it's really best if you, when you design a new airplane, if you're designing it around an engine, knowing what its specs are, what its weight is, what its needs are for cooling, and the whole airplane is going to weigh a certain amount based on the weight of the engine that you start with. And there's a ratio you end up with.
Yeah, that
so
would
the
make sense.
lighter and more compact the engine, the lighter the airplane can be with the same useful load.
Indeed, indeed. Phil, I was intrigued by what you said about the new 915 engine that maintains a high horsepower setting up to 15,000 feet. Is it turbocharged?
It is.
Okay, so it is turbocharged and fuel injected,
Yes,
obviously.
right.
So it can maintain the high horsepower setting up to the teens, if you will.
Right.
Very good. And so are there aircraft that have been designed around that particular engine already?
There
or
aren't
is it-
many because it's so new.
It's brand new.
But there are airframes that are being designed around it right now.
Is one of those engines on display here by chance?
There are some out here. We don't actually have one in our booth right now. We do have brochures on it, though.
Okay. Well, that'd be good for folks that are here visiting the U.S. Sport Aviation Expo. If you're out and about looking at the vendors and stop by Lockwood Aviation, you can at least see the brochure about the new 915 engine, a turbocharged fuel-injected version that maintains a high horsepower setting up into the mid-teens in altitude. So that's a great thing. So let's see, Phil. So,
A couple more things on that 915.
okay, well, Phil, it's been great speaking with you today. We're going to have to wrap this up and get on with other interviews and things. I wish you the best in the show here today, and thanks for being a great supporter of the U.S. Sport Aviation Expo here at Sebring.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Ron.
All right, good. Well, thank you very much for joining us. This is Ron Timmermans, one of your hosts for the Florida Aviation Network, and I'll see you the next time.